Welcome everybody. We are going to go over some slicing software on the Orca flashforge. So the first thing what we need to do is bring in a 3MF file. As you can see, we did that on here. We do have the 3MF file in here. First thing you want to do is make sure if you are using Orca flashforge, you're going to go up here and switch from bamboo to your designated profile. So what should be the flashforge. You can use your standard one that dumps come with. So we're going to go ahead and get that switched over here real quick. You want to make sure you switch that before you do start changing anything. So first thing we're going to go over here, so we do have this little prime tower here. So this is going to be a reference for, or a recommendation. You can use it, you can remove it. I personally remove it. So what we're going to do is go under multi-material. So this is where that's going to be right here. So we are going to disable it. I will turn mine off. But we are going to go over some of the things in the prime tower. You can adjust your width, your prime volume, so you can play with this if you would like. I typically do not. So one big question I get is, how do I flush it into another object? So for that, you're going to go here, and you're going to flush into objects infill. So if you click that, this will save a little bit of purge. Not a lot, but it will help save some. So you can push that into your prime tower if you would like. You can also put that into another object. That is an extra option for you. I'm going to go ahead and disable that for right now. It makes it a little bit cleaner on the plate. So the next thing what we're going to do is we're going to go over all these settings. Starting from quality all the way over to others. We'll go over those a little bit, explain what those are going to do. So quality is going to be how the print comes out, how it finishes. The number one thing to change your quality is going to be your layer height. So the lower the layer height you do, the nicer the quality you will get on your print. This will also affect the time it takes to print. So the lower this is, the longer the print will take. Most flexes, things like that, I will leave it at 0.2. If you're doing little miniatures, I would recommend bringing that down to at least 0.16 or 0.12. First layer height, I typically leave that. These are all going to be standard for the nozzle you are using. That can stay there. The seam position. So the seam position is going to be aligned. So for example, when you do a print, you will see a line in that print. That is where a print is going to start and stop every time. You can do it random. So random will help break that up a little bit and help remove that line. You can play with that and see what it does. You can also adjust your seam gap. That will leave that line less visible on the print once it is finished. So these you can play with. I don't usually mess with any of these. These are pretty much standard. So we'll go over ironing a little bit. So if you have a flat object and you want a smooth finish, you can switch ironing on. So you can do all top surfaces or top most surface only. That is going to basically wipe this down with heat from your nozzle and make a flush, clean finish. That is another thing that will add on some extra time. So next thing we're going to go over is pretty much everything in the quality settings. We're going to go ahead and go over here to the strength setting. So the strength is going to be your wall loops, your infill, things like that. So if you are trying to increase your structure of your print, one thing you can do is adjust your wall loops. Flexies, I typically do keep a 2 wall loop. So that one will be fine. I do sometimes, if I need something stronger, I will go up to 3 or 4 wall loops. That is an option for you. Top shell layers, you can thicken the top of your print. You don't have to mess with that. You can. The other one, a big one, and the strength is going to be your sparse infill density. That is going to be how much infill you put into a print. You can run it down to 5 if you would like. I typically leave it around 8% to 15%, depending on the object. So flexies, I will run anywhere from 10 to 15%. The lower the infill density, the less time it will take to print, and the less filament you will use on that. This is your infill pattern, so you can play with this. I typically leave it as a grid. If you'd like a little bit stronger, you do have a couple different options. Gyroid is a very good one for strength, and honeycomb is a good one also. Play with these, see which one. Just do it on your slicer. See what takes longer to print. That will save some time depending on what pattern you use. So these ones I don't typically mess with. I don't mess with any of the advanced settings. You can go through and, like I said, you can mess with them, adjust them, play with them a little bit, and see what comes out best for you. So these are going to be my speed settings. So I run 50 first layer, 80 first layer infill. I believe these are going to be standard on the machine. This one might be a little bit lower, but this will also help with quality and layer adhesion issues. So you can play with these on your speed. You can do your first 2 layers slow. I usually just do the first layer and slow it down on the machine itself. Outer wall speed 200, inner wall 300. These are standard. You can play with these and adjust them down if you would like. You can change your infill settings. If you're having issues where it's infilling and leaving a burr and it's grabbing that, try to play with your infill speed. Bring this down to like 200 and try that and see what it does. Always slow down for overhang, especially where those are going to require support. So you do want to make sure that's going to run a little bit slower on those. So you can see they're already running pretty slow. So I don't mess with those. Travel speed you can play with. Try to go up a little bit faster, down a little bit, and see what works for you. Acceleration is all standard. I don't touch any of those, and I don't mess with the jerk XY. We're going to go ahead and go into support. So the support is going to be for anything that has an overhang. So, for example, we'll zoom in on this. So anything that's going to have like a gap here that may not print correctly, this one is angled up, so that should not require support. But anything that's going to be a straight overhang, that support is needed. I do recommend using the tree support. It is a lot better quality. It is going to be a little bit stronger while you're printing. You don't have to mess with any of this. So if you do want to adjust your support from your actual part that you're working on, so that is going to be down here. So that's going to be your top Z distance. If we bring that up to 0.24, that is actually going to separate that gap a little bit more. Play with it, see what you can come up with. I run standard. I don't typically have any issues. I do play with it every once in a while, but never go down on the number because that's going to make it a tighter gap. Always go up on that number. So we shouldn't have to mess with anything else in here. Multi-material, so that's just, we already went over that one. Another one, if you're having bed adhesion issues, so it's going to be under this setting. So we don't need to mess with the skirts at all. So the brim is the other thing I would recommend on the smaller prints. I typically would run outer brim only, which is going to put that brim around your print and help adhere it to the plate. That is another option for you for any new beginner that is having bed adhesion issues. G-code, we don't need to touch anything in the G-code. So that is going to be everything as far as the specifics on that. So next thing we're going to go over a little bit of painting. So if you do have a print that comes in, if it doesn't come in to match your exact colors, what you're going to do is you're going to go over here. So as for example, you can see everything is highlighted black. So if we were to switch this to a gray, that is going to change everything black to a gray color. So we'll go ahead and go out that load in real quick, and as you can see, everything that was black switched to gray. So if you do want to recolor that, that isn't the quick option. I'm going to go ahead and switch this back to black. So as of right now, I only have 4 colors on my machine. If I wanted to add a 5th color, all we need to do is go up here, hit the little plus, add 1 filament. So now we have a 5th color. So what I want to do is if I want to change something in the object. So we click on the object. We're going to go up here to the top, and we're going to do color painting. So this is going to allow you to manually paint. I typically use the fill tool. So this is going to allow you to, as you can see, each item is highlighting. So these are all sectioned. So let's say we want to paint a couple of these stripes in blue. So all you have to do is, I run about 50% for your fill angle. We're just going to click on whatever object we want to be blue. So that one's blue, that one's blue, that one's blue. So if you do want to manually paint anything, that is an option for you. The other option in painting, if you want to write words on something, what we're going to do is we're going to use the circle. So if we wanted to go in here, we could write whatever we want. If you wanted to go this route, you can do this. I don't typically do it. I'll add in a text, but that is an option if you want to add some cool details or designs in your print. So let's go ahead and remove that. So that's pretty much anything as far as painting. Painting is pretty simple once you dive into it. So another thing I would like to go over on here is the scaling tool. So anytime we do scaling, you always want to scale by the percentage because not all the percentages are going to be the same. So anytime you make sure you look at what the actual percentage is. So this one, for example, we can increase it. It is all the same. So if I wanted a little bit bigger, we'll just go 120% and that'll increase it. I don't ever recommend increasing by the actual size unless you have uniform scale selected or you have something specific you're trying to adjust for one side. So always make sure to work on the scale only. So another thing we can do on here, if you download a print and it comes in as only one plate and you want to separate those plates. So what you're going to do is you're going to go up here to the top of the screen. We're going to add a second plate. So as you can see, this plate is highlighted right now. So if I were to hit slice, this is the plate that would slice, not this one. You want to make sure that plate is dark gray before you slice it to make sure you are doing the correct one. So I think that is everything on this first class that we are going to work on. If you would like to see anything specific, feel free to send me a message or reach out. We can go over more specific things if you would like. We can go over 3MF, STL, we can go over different types of PLA, but this is going to be the first lesson. If you do have any questions, and I would also appreciate any feedback that you have, something that I can improve on this video or something that you would like me to add in later. I appreciate everybody stopping by, and I hope you have a great day.